In the dense heart of ancient Southeast Asia, long before the hum of modern life, there was a kingdom that rose from the jungle like a dream turned to stone, the Khmer Empire. It was not merely a collection of cities or kings. It was an idea that the world could be shaped by will, ruled by gods among men, and sustained by the rhythm of water and earth. The empire was born in a sacred moment in 800 CE, when a man named Jayavarman II climbed the mountain of Nom Kulin and declared himself Chakravartin, a universal monarch. In that moment, he was not simply uniting warring tribes under one rule. He was declaring that Cambodia would no longer bend its knee to Java or any foreign power. The heavens were called upon, and the sacred rites of the Hindu Devaraya were invoked, making the king not only a political leader but a divine presence, the earthly manifestation of Shiva himself. And from that moment, his story began to unfold that would shape the destiny of an entire people. A story written in stone, in rice, in blood, and in time. Across the centuries, the Khmer kings would transform their land into one of the most advanced civilizations of the medieval world. They would build not with timber that decays, but with sandstone that could whisper to eternity. They carved out a capital that would become the largest pre-industrial city in human history, Angkor. At its height, Angkor was a marvel of urban planning, engineering, art, and spiritual ambition. Its vast sprawl covered over 1,000 square kilometers and supported up to 1 million people. Streets radiated from palace centers, lined with wooden houses and workshops. Grand avenues led to stone temples, and all of it was tied together by water, the empire's lifeblood. Reservoirs called braes shimmered in the sun, massive in size and masterfully constructed. Canals, aqueducts, and moats turned the land into a thriving network of agriculture, supporting 3 rice harvests a year, an achievement unmatched at the time. And at the center of this marvel stood Angkor Wat, the crown jewel. Built in the 12th century by King Suryavarman II, Angkor Wat was more than a temple. It was a cosmic map carved into the earth, aligning perfectly with the stars, the equinox, and the ancient beliefs of Hindu cosmology. Every surface was alive with narrative. Over 3,000 carved apsaras danced along its walls, while bas-reliefs told epic stories from the Ramayana and Mahabharata. It wasn't just a place of worship. It was a divine claim, a king's eternal presence written in stone. It said, "We are here. We are powerful. We are blessed." But even the strongest walls cannot hold back time. As the centuries unfolded, so too did the trials of empire. Kings came and went, some visionaries, others tyrants. But perhaps none shone brighter than Jayavarman VII, who rose to power after the disastrous Cham invasion in 1177. The Khams, fierce warriors from the east, had shocked the empire by sacking Angkor, tearing through the capital with fire and fury. But Jayavarman VII, a devout Mahayana Buddhist, did not just restore the empire. He reimagined it. He expanded the empire's territory to its greatest extent and rebuilt Angkor with a humanist heart. Under his rule, more temples were constructed than under any king before or after. The Bayon, with its serene stone faces, was his masterpiece, a temple not to gods of destruction or war, but to compassion and wisdom. He built rest houses for travelers, hospitals for the sick, and schools for the poor. For a time, the empire pulsed with new energy, a kind of golden twilight after a long day in the sun. But as with all great things, shadows grew. The grand door masked the cracks beginning to spread across the foundation. While the temples reached ever higher, the burden of maintaining them, and the massive infrastructure of the empire, grew heavier. The water systems that once sustained life began to falter. Droughts swept across the land, breaking up the rhythm of rice cultivation. Sudden floods followed, washing away delicate embankments and overwhelming the canals. The perfect harmony between engineering and nature began to collapse. At the same time, the spiritual heart of the empire was changing. With the rise of Theravada Buddhism, more modest, more internal, the king was no longer seen as a god, but merely as a man. The cult of the Deva Raya faded. New temples were smaller, humbler, and often made of wood. The monumental energy of Angkor slowed. Without divine legitimacy, central authority weakened. Provincial lords grew bolder, ruling their regions as near-independent states. Factionalism bloomed, and the once united empire fractured into pieces. And then came the outside pressures, the Ayutthaya kingdom rising from the west, ever hungry, ever watching. By the 14th and 15th centuries, the Khmer Empire was no longer the juggernaut it had been. The army was thinner, the people fewer, the canals choked with silt. The fields grew less and less. When Ayutthaya forces finally attacked in the early 15th century, Angkor could not resist. Some records say it was taken by force. Others suggest it was simply abandoned. Perhaps both are true. Perhaps the city had already lost its soul by then. But what is known is this: by the mid-1400s, the Khmer capital had shifted southward, away from the jungle, away from the gods, toward a different future. Angkor was left behind. Not destroyed, but forgotten. Not burnt, but buried in green. Over the next centuries, the jungle slowly reclaimed what man had built. Roots tore through stone. Rain eroded reliefs. Sacred halls became the homes of animals, not worshippers. Angkor became a ghost. And yet, even in decay, it breathed. When French explorers discovered it in the 19th century, they thought it was a lost city, a civilization swallowed by time. But for the Cambodian people, it had never truly been lost. It was always part of them. The temples remained places of prayer. The stories lived on in memory and in dance. The Khmer Empire had not died. It had simply changed form. Its spirit had entered the people, the land, the very language. Today, Angkor stands not only as a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but as a living symbol of resilience, artistry, and faith. It is a place where the past is not dead, but sleeping, waiting to be remembered. And in every cracked pillar, in every moss-covered step, in every silent corridor of Angkor Wat, there is a whisper of greatness, a whisper of glory, a whisper that says, "We were once magnificent. We shaped the rivers and the stars. We were kings. We were divine. And though we fell, not with a bang but with a breath, our story remains." For no empire truly dies if it is remembered. The fall of the Khmer Empire was not one moment. It was a fading, slow, beautiful, tragic, and poetic. And in that fading, there is a lesson for every modern power, that greatness must be nourished, not only by might, but by wisdom, humility, and care for the earth and soul. That civilizations built on pride alone will one day crumble, but those built on compassion, like Jayavarman's vision, may outlast even stone. The story of Angkor is not just Cambodia's story. It is the story of every empire, every dream, every rise and fall of humankind. And as we walk through its ruins today, we do not just see the past, we see ourselves. We see what we are capable of, both in brilliance and in blindness. The Khmer Empire reminds us that we can build wonders, and that we must not forget why we build them. Not for ego, not for conquest, but for meaning, for spirit, for generations yet to come. And in that remembrance, the empire still lives,